Hi guys, welcome to another new video on Book Tales by Pritha. Now this is a new kind of video which I have never done, and this is for the first time that I am doing a readathon which I am conducting on my Instagram handle by the same name, Book Tales by Pritha. I have also written about it on the Facebook group which is by the name Book Tales by Pritha, as well as on my YouTube. So more and more people participate, it will be more fun and more interesting. So as you know, I promote reading, and this is for the first time that I thought, why not conduct a readathon. Now this kind of readathon is mostly conducted by melodramatic bookworm, and this content is inspiration from Sonali, who runs melodramatic bookworm handle on YouTube as well as on Instagram. Now in this particular video, the name I have given, the name of the readathon I have given is July Weekend Readathon with Book Tales by Pritha. This will start from today 9 p.m. Today is 14th of July, Friday, and it will end on Sunday 16th of July 9 p.m. So the readathon will continue for 48 hours. Now let me share with you the different prompts that I have made for this particular readathon. The first thing is a book by an Indian author. For that I have selected The Mogul by Vish Dhamija. For a very long time I intended to read this particular book. This book is a courtroom drama / thriller, and this is all I know. And this book got published, I think, before COVID, and it was making news. And I have not read Vish Dhamija or courtroom drama, and so I thought that for this particular prompt I will go with this book. The second prompt is any book from which you can learn something new. For that I have selected this book, Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I have already started reading this book. This is a non-fiction. It's a bestseller, and most of the people or readers have read it. I haven't, so I thought that let me read this book and see what new I can learn from this book. For the third prompt, I have given it a book that is country specific, and for this particular prompt, the book I have selected is The Honjin Murder. This book is set in Japan in the late 1930s. It is a thriller. This is the only knowledge I have about the book, and this will be my pick for the third prompt. The fourth prompt is a book that you have started reading but you have not completed, and you want to complete it in this particular weekend. For that I have taken this one, Lessons in Chemistry. I am continuing to read this book for the last 2 weeks, if not wrong, and it's high time I finish reading this book. About 100 pages are left. I hope to finish it in this weekend, and I am recording this whole video because I want to be accountable, and I really want to finish this book and the books that I am picking up for this readathon. And the last one is a book that is based on a specific genre. The genre can be romance, it can be thriller, it can be horror, it can be comedy, it can be YA, but it needs to have a specific genre. So for that I have picked Sally Rooney's Conversation with Friend. I have not read this book. I don't have much knowledge about this book. Also, for the first time I am reading a book by Sally Rooney. So let's see how much I can complete in the next 48 hours, and I will keep updating you about the books, about my reading process over this whole weekend. And let's make this readathon an interesting one. By the time I will be posting it on my YouTube channel, the readathon will be over. But just to make myself accountable, I'm making this video in a vlog format, and I hope you enjoy watching the video. So wish me luck, and let's see where I can reach in my reading process by the next 48 hours. Tata and happy reading, everyone. Today is Friday, 14th of July. Now it is 9:15 p.m. and I'm beginning the readathon by starting with lessons in chemistry. I have read about 302 pages. The book is 390 pages. I hope to finish this book by tonight. That is my first goal. So let's see. This book by Bonnie Garmus is a book that I'm seriously enjoying. I have already told in my previous video that whatever level of reader you are, you may be a beginner reader, you may be an intermediate reader, you may be an advanced reader. All types of reader are going to enjoy this book. This book is about chemist Elizabeth Zott. The time period is 1961. In the beginning chapters, it takes a flashback, and the story goes about during 1950s, and it talks about Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist who is working in a lab in USA. And surprisingly, at that particular point of time, a woman who was a scientist was not considered something more than a receptionist in science labs, and that too in countries like USA. Due to certain circumstances, Elizabeth becomes single mother to her daughter Madeline, and the story takes forth. They have a dog named 630, and I personally am enjoying this book so much that I want to make a full-fledged video on this particular book. This was this was #1 New York Times bestseller of 2022. The cover of the book, as you can see, is impressive, and I like this cover more than the other cover, which is for the US edition, I believe. But this cover, and later on, this woman Elizabeth Zott hosts a cookery show named Supper at 6, which becomes immensely popular, wherein she teaches women who were mostly housewives at that point of time different cooking recipes which were based on her knowledge of chemistry. Doesn't it sound interesting? So let me complete reading this book, and in the next part of the video I will complete reading this book, and then I will share my thoughts on the whole book. Till then, happy reading.
Hi guys, welcome back. It's 2 minutes to 2 a.m. and as per my reading update goes, I have completed lessons in chemistry. It's an excellent book, and this is the first book which I gave 4.8 stars out of 5 stars this year in 2023. Apart from this, I have also read about 45 pages of the Hunjing Mothers. So first I will talk about Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Now, as I said, that this is the story of Elizabeth Zott, a chemist in 1960s, and how her life was difficult, what all she had to face to raise her daughter, who was not born of her wedlock, with Kelvin. Why she was not born of her wedlock? To find out, you must read this book. Also, how Elizabeth Zott, who was a chemist, became a household name through the cookery show Supper at 6, is something you must read. This book talks about the problems that even educated women, very educated women indeed, faced during 1960s in a country like USA, where scientists like Elizabeth Zott were considered nothing more than mere receptionist by the male counterpart. How she meets the love of her life, Kelvin, and why and how she falls in love with Kelvin is an interesting part to read. Then, what all difficult circumstances make Elizabeth the tough lady that she gradually becomes while raising her daughter, battling single-handedly, is another interesting part. Why the dog which Kelvin and Elizabeth had was named 630 is another very interesting plot, why she has named the dog 630, and then how her daughter, who was merely 5 or 6 years old when this cookery show in which Elizabeth becomes the host happens during early 1960s, why and how Madeline, who was very intelligent child, because both her parents were chemists and scientists, and they were both the best in their own field. And this girl of 6 years, at some places even I felt that it was little bit too much that the author has pointed about this 6-year-old girl child of Elizabeth. But then I think that if your parents are super intelligent, then maybe the author wants to show that even the child is very smart and intelligent. And then you will also, if you have read basic chemistry in your school, you will see how very interestingly the author Bonnie Garmus has used the knowledge of chemistry textbooks with this cookery show, which is really very interesting to read. I will not tell more about this book in this part of the vlog, because as I have told repeatedly that I intend to make a dedicated video on this particular book, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. And this book, I will say that this book is for any and every kind of reader. This book can be a very good present. This is really one of the best fiction book that I have read. This book is about 390 pages, and it took me some time to read the book, but not for a single moment did I feel bored to read the book. It's a very interesting book. It questions the society of 60s. The book is both humorous, witty, as well as it is filled with sarcasm. Characters like fictional characters like Elizabeth Zott are difficult to find in real life, but I will say that it's a very strong character that the author has created. These kind of women are the ones who lead the society to a better path. Not more than this I will talk about this book in this part of the video. Now I will talk about the next book that I started reading, and I completed reading about 45 pages. I will not read more because tomorrow I have work and other things, and apart from that I have to also continue the readathon. Now the book in question is Hunching Mothers. This is a book that is set in Japan, and thus it fulfills my prompt number 2, that is a book that is set in a specific country. The time period of the book is late 1930s. It talks about a particular person who writes detective novel, and a murder has occurred in a particular household, that is very rich, wealthy household in a particular area, wherein the groom and the bride are killed just after they are married, and the functions in the marriage has got over. Now this particular detective, or rather the person who is writing this novel, in a very what should I say, descriptive tone, talks about Japanese culture, Japanese society, Japanese towns and cities during late 1930s, and he has explained different Japanese customs and traditions. There are certain terms which as a reader I was not knowing, because they were specifically depicting Japanese customs, traditions, Japanese musical instrument, etc. But very nicely the author has given description about each of the terms, so you won't find difficulty in reading the book. Also the language I found is very easy, and as I said, it's very descriptive, so it is easier for the readers to understand. So today, now it is 2:05, and I go to sleep because tomorrow morning I have a call to attend. I have to visit the doctor due to certain reasons, and then after that I will continue with the readathon. Till then, goodbye, and I will see you soon in the next part of the
Hi guys, welcome back. Today it is Sunday 17th and now it is 3:15 p.m. I intend to start reading from now, but before that I will share an update regarding what I read yesterday night. So yesterday night, regarding the prompt, which was a book that can teach you something. So for that I had selected this popular bestseller, Secret, and I was going through this book. I read about 60-70 odd pages. It's a very fast read. What I understood from those 60-70 pages, that the basic thing that this book intends to say is that you should be in a positive frame of mind. A positive frame of mind can make you do lot many good things. Also, you should be surrounded by people or association who bring out the best in you. If you understand that something is toxic, the people you are surrounded is not talking good about you, finding your faults all the time, it is better to avoid such people or circumstances. Like the one very good example that I found out in this book, like people say that I'm growing fat. So for that, rather than keeping a calorie check of what they are consuming in a day, they rather blame themselves for becoming fat, because it is the society that tells, okay, you are fat, so you are not looking good, etc., etc. Rather than that, try to work on yourself. See to it what good things you can eat, how you can maintain a healthy lifestyle, and a lifestyle in which you can be consistent. So that is a very good point that I found in this particular book, because this is also a problem that I face in my daily life as well. So this is one of the book that I was reading yesterday. Next, when I was shooting the previous part of this video, I had told that from one book by Indian author, I am going to read The Mughal by Vish Thamicha, and I don't have the physical copy of the book. I will read the EPUB version. But what happened, when I started reading just one or two pages, I saw that only 29 pages were available in that EPUB version. So I couldn't read it. Instead of that, I started reading My Story by Kamala Das. Now Kamala Das is a very, very popular Indian author. In this particular book, which spans mostly during her childhood, means now the portion that I am reading, it mostly talks about her childhood days. What fascinated me is her art of storytelling. Very, very small chapters. The chapters comprise of a young girl who is living in British India during the early 1930s and 1940s, and she's talking about her childhood. You know, the stories are so well written. It is short, crisp, has a very good narrative and excellent writing, and in a very simple language. So that is what I am liking about this book. Also, I love the cover of the book. See, the cover is looking so beautiful. This book is comprised of several chapters, but each chapter has got very beautiful title. Like the first title is Rule Britannica. Then there is one more title which I like, The British Aristocracy, The Federal System. So under each title, you can say it is like an essay or a very, very short story which the author has given, but through it she talks about her childhood. So I read about 30-40 pages of this book also yesterday, and I thoroughly enjoyed. But this is a kind of book, this one and the next one which I will say, these are the kind of books in which you cherish reading. You can't read it very fast, because if you read this book very fast, then I believe, this is completely my personal opinion, you somewhere down the line you lose the charm of the wonderful literature that the author has depicted in their work. So I am consciously reading this book and the next book which I will talk in a very, very slow, relaxed pace. Also, for 2 hours or so before going to sleep, I tumbled upon this book, Conversation with Friends, with this one is written by Sally Rooney, and this is the first book of Sally Rooney that I am reading. Now, this is again a bestseller. This book is set in contemporary time period in Ireland, Dublin. This is the first book on Ireland or Dublin that I am reading. But what I found after reading about 50 pages of this book, that how complex life of people has become due to their self-created issues and the complexities in their life. And also this book, maybe the English is very easy, but the kind of relationship that is described in this particular book, in one word I can say, is they are complicated. And that is why I think this kind of book should not be read very fast. You should read this book at your own pace, and that is what exactly I am following. Now, today I plan to restart the Honjin Murders once again, of which I had read about 45 pages in the first sitting. I enjoyed, and I have told a part of it in the previous part of the video. So let me see how much I can complete the Honjin Murders before 5 o'clock. In between, I have to finish my lunch, which I have not done yet, and after 2.5 weeks I seriously intend to go to gym today, because as you have seen in my previous video, I was not keeping well for a prolonged time, which is about 2 weeks or more, and so I intend to go to gym, in which I will spend around 2.5 hours. It's a normal time that goes on in going and coming to the gym, and let me see how much I can continue before 9 p.m., which about like 5.5 hours left, and let me see how much more I can read in this time frame. So I will see you soon in the next part of the video. Hey guys, welcome back. This is the last part of the video, and it's about to be 9 p.m. What I have finished in this couple of last few hours was, I read about majorly I have finished Honjin Murders, which I understood is a book where a couple is murdered on the night of their wedding. The event takes place in late 1930s in Japan. The story is gripping, but what I found confusing is, first, the Japanese name. There were too many characters in this particular book. Secondly, they have spoken about lots of rituals that happens in Japanese customs and tradition during their marriages, etc. Which, as there were so many new names and terms, which was difficult to remember on the first place. I will not say that this is one of the. Also, this is the first book of this particular detective in his series. I think there are 4 or 5 books. This is the first book of this particular inspector. Again, I forgot the name. But this is an okay kind of a story. I would, if you tell me to rate it, I will rate it 2.8 out of 5 stars. The major reason being, there are too many characters with Japanese names, which I found it difficult to remember, and also because it was too much culture and region centric, and which were really new to me, and so I was finding it really hard to remember the things. But the story is not bad. You can read it if you have time, but I will not say this is one of the best thrillers that I have read. Okay, now the next one that I read a little bit, like about more 50 pages, was Conversation with Friends by Sally Rooney, which last day I had read about 50 pages. I finished about more 50 pages, and as I said, the one adjective that can be used to define this particular novel is complication. As the story advances, I see more and more complication occurring in the lives of each of the characters due to the self created choices. That is the only thing that I can say. Also, towards the end of this readathon, I completed reading Lessons in Chemistry, which is a very, very interesting book, a book that is for everyone, and I will rate it 4.8 out of 5 star. The story is nice, the story is interesting, the story is it's a historical fiction where the role of women in science lab during 1950s and 60s in USA has been depicted, and sorry to say, it was a very sad condition if like this situation existed in those times. Also, I liked the character 630, which is the name of Elizabeth Zott's dog. I have read lots of stories where there are dogs in the stories, but I have never heard a name like this, 630. And why the dog is called 630? Because Elizabeth found him at 6:30 in the morning. So that's why the dog's name was 6:30. And I also got to know how many words a dog can learn in his lifetime. That was a new knowledge. I don't know whether it is true or false, but it was an interesting piece. And I again I'm saying that I want to make a full-fledged video on lessons in chemistry. Here I have just given bits and bits of the book, but I want to make a full-fledged video. Secret is an interesting fiction. This year I have non-fiction, and this year I have not read much of the non-fiction. I am enjoying Secret. I have not completed it. The basic premise of the book is that when the kind of people you have in your surrounding affects your thought process, and your thought process in turn affects your action, and you and solely you are responsible for all your actions and course of your life. So this is what till now what I found a simple gist of all the pages that I have read. This is the gist, and so what I want to say is surround yourself with positive people who think about your well-being. Try to avoid people who are toxic. The fourth book that I was reading is My Autobiography by Kamila Das. This book talks about the author's life. This book, I am saying, this book is a reading experience. It is a reading delight. I loved the writing style. I loved the storytelling. Small chapters of hardly 3 to 5 pages each chapters have got very nice titles, which is making the story reading experience a worthwhile one. And I want to complete this book, but I will take my own pace to read this book. I will not read this book fast, and this is not a book to read for a readathon where you have to read more books or more number of pages. This is a book to experience, and so I will take my own sweet time to complete this book. So this was all that I had finished in this readathon. This was the first ever readathon that I had ever conducted in all this year. It was a good experience, and what my basic conclusion is, I have completed reading one full book or one full novel. I have completed majority of one non-fiction, one contemporary fiction, and a thriller also. That also I have finished. I have finished about like only 20 pages are left, so that I will finish by tonight. So So my experience of this readathon was, yes, I read more in readathon, just like the day before the exam, when we used to study more than we used to do all through the year. Just before the exam we used to study a lot. That same experience I had after lot many years. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will come back to you soon with another video. Till then, have a great day ahead. Tata, bye bye.